Talking with Zach Rosenfield of AccuScore.com and John Harrison of VegasKillers.com, previewing Week 3 of college football. Before we get on to the final games, I want to ask you guys about Michigan State and Notre Dame. Now, Notre Dame, they're just the classic team that you want to fade and fade and fade again. And this year it's been the same way. They lost outright at home to South Florida. Then last week it looks like they were going to get a cover, and they est the bed, as a lot of people like to say. They're just a great team to fade. Looks like it's still going on, and now they're 4.5 points at home, favored over Michigan State. You think it's another good fade? Zach, what do you think?
No, I don't. I mean, there's a reason why Notre Dame is continuing to lay points, and that's because they have an offense that's generated over 1,000 yards with two different quarterbacks. I mean, look, they played great against Michigan last week until they didn't.
Right.
So that was 55 minutes of playing good, and simply they just couldn't get their head around on defense. I mean, that was the only thing that I saw with Notre Dame that was a big problem, was that their cornerbacks couldn't get their head around. And I would imagine that is something that they would work on. The amount of fumbles and turnovers that they've had in the red zone, I mean, they're on the right side of variance right now. Statistically, it's impossible to keep up with that many red zone appearances and those many turnovers, that many turnovers, especially just dropping the ball. They seem to be in the right place with Reese. They were they got beat on a trick play last year when they were at Michigan State. Eventually, Notre Dame's going to win some games. They're a good football team. That's why they have 1,000 yards. That's why they continue to get to the red zone.
Right.
One of the big things that I look at and that we look at is red zone appearances, scoring opportunities. Notre Dame simply hasn't cashed in on their scoring opportunities. They will. Statistics even out. We'll go ahead and we'll take Notre Dame and lay those points.
So basically what I'm getting from what you're saying is Notre Dame is a good football team, but they repeatedly shit the bed. Now, my question for you is that, is that something wrong with the team, or do you think that's mostly due to randomness and variance?
Well, it's both.
Okay.
Let's address the first. Is there something wrong with the team? Yes. Their defensive backs don't turn their heads when the ball's in the air. That's a major problem. It cost them a game last week. You would like to think that's going to get fixed. Notre Dame is a good tackling team beyond that. So let's assume that gets fixed. Then we bring ourselves to statistical variance. It's impossible for Notre Dame to keep up the amount of red zone appearances that they make and not be able to score points with it. They will score points with it. I imagine that the statistical correction begins this weekend. I'll go ahead and put money on it. I like Notre Dame, and we like Notre Dame minus the point.
All right. Well, Justin Sevens called for Notre Dame win last week, and they didn't get it, but he had his reasons. John Harrison, what do you think of this line?
I got Michigan State over 7.5 wins for the season. This is one game I had them losing. I'm kind of backing off that now, though, just because the turnovers for Notre Dame, you cannot turn the ball over, I think, 5 times each game and win games like that. They do get to the red zone, but they don't score, and that's a huge problem. I mean, you're going to have to score to win. That being said, I'm not going to touch the game. I was impressed, definitely, by Notre Dame against Michigan. They were up 24-7 in the third quarter. That's not an easy thing to do at the Big House. They definitely collapsed in the fourth quarter, but I can't lay money on them, and I definitely cannot lay money on Michigan State.